Some objects shouldn't feel dangerous. A simple sphere of glass, a carved wooden staff, a symbol pressed into wax, a book sealed with metal clasps. And yet, throughout history, people treated these objects as if they could bend the laws of nature itself. They called it magic. Then they feared it. Then they outlawed it. And eventually, they erased it from respectable conversation. But here's the question most people never stop to ask. What if magic was never a supernatural force at all? What if it was simply the name ancient people gave to knowledge that worked long before they understood why it worked? If that's true, then the real mystery isn't spells or curses. The real mystery is this: how much of our history is built on misunderstandings that hardened into belief, law, and fear? By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the word magic had already lost much of its original meaning. Industrial wealth expanded, leisure increased, and curiosity, detached from discipline, went searching for sensation. Stories from India, Egypt, and the Middle East flooded Europe and America, framed as forbidden knowledge or exotic wisdom. But instead of careful study, these ideas were consumed as entertainment. Magic became spectacle, ritual became theater, and mystery became a product. People were no longer interested in understanding how the world worked. They wanted to feel close to power without responsibility. This shift permanently damaged the concept. What once described structured systems of knowledge was reduced to fantasy, scandal, and manipulation. And from that moment on, the modern mind stopped asking what magic once meant, focusing only on how strange it looked from the outside. In ancient civilizations, magic was rarely treated as imagination or illusion. It functioned more like a framework, a way of describing invisible forces that shaped reality. In Egypt, the concept often translated as Heka was not portrayed as superstition. It was described as a fundamental principle woven into creation itself, binding gods, humans, and nature together. Those trained in it were not performers or mystics detached from society. They were healers, scholars, observers of the natural world. Remedies, symbols, spoken formulas, and timing all followed patterns. Nothing was random, and most importantly, access to this knowledge was restricted, not because it was evil, but because it was powerful. Ancient societies understood something modern culture often forgets. Knowledge without discipline is more dangerous than ignorance. This idea wasn't isolated to a single culture. Travel from Egypt to Mesoamerica and the pattern repeats. The Maya developed complex calendars, astronomical systems, and mathematical models that governed religious life. Their rituals were not simply spiritual expressions, but attempts to synchronize human activity with cosmic cycles. What later generations labeled prophecy may have been advanced pattern recognition, knowledge built from long observation and repetition. In Celtic traditions, the focus shifted towards seasons, landscapes, stones, and living systems, yet the logic remained the same. Harmony produced results. In Mesopotamia, words related to magi described wisdom rooted in understanding universal order. Different myths, different symbols, but a shared belief. Reality operates according to hidden rules, and humans can learn them. So why did something once respected become feared? Because power, whether real or perceived, always destabilizes society. When individuals claim insight into invisible systems, communities react predictably. Some seek guidance, others feel threatened. Over time, institutions move to control what they cannot fully understand. Magic entered legal codes not because it was irrational, but because it was unpredictable. Add cases of fraud, exploitation, and psychological manipulation, and the concept became toxic. Fear replaced curiosity. Nuance collapsed into extremes. Knowledge went underground, fragmented, and distorted. What survived was not the disciplined tradition, but its shadow, rumors, legends, and moral panic. And once fear dominates a narrative, erasure soon follows. Science is often framed as the enemy of magic, but historically, it inherited magic's core impulse, the desire to understand hidden mechanisms. Ancient magic asked why the world behaved as it did. Science asked the same question, but demanded proof. As explanations emerged, phenomena once labeled supernatural became ordinary. Lightning became electricity. Disease became biology. The universe did not lose its mystery, it gained vocabulary. Magic did not vanish. It transformed into disciplines that sounded safer, more controlled. Medicine, physics, psychology, engineering. But the human instinct behind them remained unchanged, to access the structure beneath appearances. And that raises an uncomfortable possibility, that ancient descriptions were not entirely wrong, merely incomplete. If history teaches us anything, it is that humanity consistently confuses understanding with certainty. When we lack explanations, we call something magic. When explanations arrive, we call it science. But reality itself does not change with our labels. The mechanisms remain, which leads to the most unsettling question of all. What if many ancient cultures were not describing fantasy, but struggling to articulate systems beyond their language? What if the myths we dismiss today are fragments of observations we no longer know how to read? And if that's true, then the boundary between magic and science was never a wall, only a moment in time. So the question remains, what are we calling impossible today simply because we haven't learned the right way to describe it yet?